Does anyone want to venture a guess? You want to just have a quick stab in the dark and guess how many chameleons are in this room right now? Maybe 10. Could be 1,000. There could be 0. We would just have no idea, right? That is because chameleons have the coolest defense mechanisms in the world, right? Chameleons just change color to blend into their background, right? They just fully become invisible because they're the same color as whatever's going on behind them. If you haven't seen a chameleon before, this one here, that's what it would look like normally, right? In the jungle, and there's lots of green. It's sort of a greeny color. But this guy here, he's just showing off. He's like, yeah, I could be a rainbow. I can do whatever I want. And would you believe me if I told you in this next picture, there are 500 chameleons? There very well may not be. I just Googled jungle and grabbed a picture. But there could be. We would have no idea. Now, I can think of a million different times in my life where I'm like, man, I wish I could just blend in with everything going on. Imagine you're walking down the street, it's really crowded, you're sort of jostling people, and then you hit the edge of the gutter and you just stack it. Bam. And as you go down, it's like it sort of shocks you and you go, "Whoa!" And everyone around you just turns. And just before their eyes sort of just all converge onto you, you disappear. You're the ground. And it's like, everyone's like, what was that? You just commando crawl around the corner, go back to normal and just continue walking. Like, how cool would that be? That would have saved me so many times because I fall over a lot. Now, we can't do exactly that. I wish we could, but we can't. We can do something a little similar, can't we? Let me put it this way. Have you ever been in a big group of people and they're like, let's go and do this? And you're like, that doesn't sound so good. I don't really want to do that. They're like, yeah, come on, it'll be fun, it'll be cool. And you go and you do it anyway, just so that you fit in. What about if you're in a conversation with someone and you're sitting there and they're talking about whatever there is they're talking about? You're like, no, I don't really agree with that. I feel completely different. And then they go, so what do you think? And you're like, yep, what you said, exactly what you said. All on board. Isn't that a lot easier than going through the whole, well, no, this is why I don't agree with you, and it's a lot easier to just say, yeah, I totally agree. Well, tonight's passage, there's a guy named Peter, and he does exactly that. So this is back in the beginning of the church. So Jesus has only just died and rose again, and now there's two groups of people. There's Jews and Gentiles, and before this time they had been completely separate. But because of what Jesus has done, they can both have a relationship with him. And so they're like, all right, now we've got to work out how we're going to live together, how we're going to eat the same stuff, what the go is. And they were doing pretty well. But then something happened that shook it up a little bit, and this guy named Peter starts to change. Now, do you guys remember these things that we did last week? Remember these? You guys, none of you guys were here? Okay, good. I was going to really have to rethink what I was going to say. So Peter and the other guys in the church had been doing this. They'd been living for Christ. They'd been doing what he told them to do, and they'd been following him. And then another group of Jews rocked up, and they hadn't been with these guys originally. And Peter starts to think, all right, this is going to be a little tricky. These guys don't do what we do. What am I going to do? And so he starts to go back to his old life. He was doing this, and he sort of starts to go, well, I'm just going to do this again. I'm going to sink into the background. Which of these two sides do you reckon is going to be more visible to people? Which is going to stand out more? Going back to the chameleon thing. This side or this side? This one. Yep, this side, I reckon. This side, everyone's doing this, right? This is what the world's doing. This is what your friends are doing. This is what we were doing for a long time. This one's a little different. And Peter starts to go, well, these new guys are here. And if I'm doing this, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. They're going to ask questions. They're going to be like, what? So why are you living with these guys? We don't associate with the Gentiles. We're Jews. So he's like, all right, I'm going to start to just live this life out at the moment. Let me tell you, Paul rips him on it. Paul quite clearly says that this side is not the way that Jesus tells us to live. You see, we actually have died to the law. When Jesus died, we died along with him to the law so that we can live for God. But the problem is that actually takes a lot of guts. We need to be really bold if we're going to live this life. It's hard. It sticks out. People take notice. My challenge for you guys tonight is to think, am I living this life here? And then when I leave this place, just sort of flipping it around to blend in, doing the sneaky chameleon and just sort of, this is all cool. Or are you standing here bold like this and sticking out? We're going to talk about this more in pods. I'm just going to quickly pray and then we're going to work out where we're going. So, Father, thank you that you died and you rose again so that we can be freed from the law to live for you. Help us to continue doing this daily in our lives. We pray this in your name. Amen.